So I am honored to have Katya. Is it Soldak? How do you pronounce
Yeah,
it? Yep, Katya. Thank you
Katya
so much.
Soldak.
Um,
Mhm.
she is here with. Oh man, I'm getting all my titles messed up in my brain. Don't tell me. This is just a crisp brain fart. I just looked at it and watched it. The Long Breakup, which is a documentary that is so, it's rich. It's full of so much a life, and I'm really excited for Katya to be here and share with us. So, Katya, tell us a little bit about you, where you're at, who you are, and what prompted this endeavor for you.
Sure. Hi, Chris. Thank you so much for having me and for the introduction and for screening my film at this festival. So far, it's been an amazing experience. And what should I say about myself? Because there are so many different ways to tell about yourself and who you are. In this case, I would say that I'm the director and the producer of this film, The Lone Breakup. The Lone Breakup is a feature documentary film about Ukraine trying to separate from Russia, to say goodbye to Russia. So it became this long, endless breakup. And I was working on this film for over, I would say 15 years, probably is the rough estimate. But if you include all the archival materials that I was gathering without even knowing that I would make the film, then it just my entire life. Yeah. So I live in New York. I live in Brooklyn. I'm a journalist here in New York. I work for Forbes magazine. And this film is the labor of love. It's my passion project. And I do cover post-Soviet, territory, and I know a lot about what's going on there, and I write essays about it or use my childhood memories to explain to my Western friends what the Soviet Union was like and what Ukraine is about. And this film is probably the most comprehensive way that I was trying to actually tell. It's like War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. It's about a human being who lives through all these huge geopolitical changes, but at the end, it's just about people and how it affects them. And yeah, the film just covers like 2.5 decades of history, but it's not really just about history. It's about people living through historic moments.
Yeah. So you said, I mean, you said it's been your life's work essentially. You've been working on it for 15, 20 years. Was there a point where, it became a project as opposed to an idea? Was there something that solidified that for you as like, I'm going to now go on this journey and make this?
Yeah, of course. Um, in 2004, when Ukraine somehow became a big word I already lived in America, and it was the subject of the news coverage. Uh, People started paying attention to what Ukraine was, and when I told people you meet new people, and I speak also Russian, and people were like, "Oh, you're Russian." And then at some point, when I said I'm Ukrainian, people no longer wondered, what is it? Is it part of Russia? Because it was in the news and they kind of understood that Ukraine is a separate country. And I think that was the moment when I started working on the film. And I thought I would make a short, sweet story with a happy end about Ukraine becoming this wonderful, prosperous, democratic, free country. Because I interviewed a lot of my friends in Kharkiv who were hopeful and very optimistic, but it never happened. And then it became this labor of many years, which sometimes I didn't know where the journey was going to take me. And honestly, there were moments where I thought, I kept accumulating more and more material because I just couldn't stop filming. And then at some point I was, maybe I should just stop, because it's like the burden of having all of that, all the footage, and some of it is beautiful and interesting, but I don't know what the story is. And I was like, maybe I should just burn it. And I asked myself several times, like, should I just burn it? Like, can I burn it? And there was always something inside me that like, no, you can't. Like, you have to keep going.
Well, that's great. We got some things popping in here. So But before I run these, some of these are long-winded questions, so I'm gonna have to
Simplify.
I'll have to break them down in my mind to share them. But also, you may circle back later and hit some of these. I did
Sure.
want to. One of the relationships in there was that stood out to me was your friends, you know, from in Ukraine, and kind of the arc of that friendship and how it changed over the years and over the times you went back and forth. And I kind of want to ask, where is that now? Is that even has that relationship evolved further since the film, and you know, has that moved forward for you in a way?
Hmm. It's not an easy question. I mean, there are people that I know I don't speak with. That's it. Like somehow there was this big breaking point, and we never even tried to reconcile. It was very like the ending was clean, and we never revisited it. And with some people, we just don't talk about politics anymore. We just don't, because the choice is either to lose all of your, not all of you, but like a lot of connection that for me connects me with my childhood and with my country where I'm from. And I don't think that I'm ready to completely cut it off just because we can't talk about, you know, we're not on the same page about a lot of issues. So, I mean, listen, I'm sure that in America, there are plenty of families who are divided because of their political views, and things might seem very acute at some point, but at the end, you still try to, you can't completely break up with your family and your friends. So you just find some subjects that you can discuss, like food, or, you know, I don't know what else, weather maybe, but you don't want to lose these people entirely. So you find a way to separate that.
These are all really great questions. I have to dissect them all a little bit. Well, let me switch to this question real quick, because I do want to include people who are trying to get answers and want to know more. So, this one's from Jonathan. It says, "I appreciated how you were not, uh, how you were not invisible. That your perspective was the medium for understanding the changes and situation in Ukraine." So more of a statement there, but can you speak to kind of your, let's see, you were not invisible. Like what, how I see that as a, I guess your choice in presenting you within your documentary, the voice. So what were your choices behind sharing you personally in it, or your narrative, or those elements of you to create the story in space?
Thank you for this question, Jonathan and Chris, for your interpretation. Um, I I mean, I can, you know, answer it from two perspectives. One is, yes, this film has a point of view. I did let different people speak and hear their voices, because that's the story of the country that is in some ways, or was in some ways, divided. But at the same time, I have a point of view. I feel like Ukraine is a separate country. I always felt, even in the 90s. And, you know, that kind of determined, especially living here in the United States, I would never say that I was from Russia. I spoke Ukrainian, maybe not very well, but I definitely identified with Ukraine, even in the late 90s when I first came to visit the United States. And I don't, for me personally, I'm not looking for the answer, like what kind of, I mean, I just want to know more about the country and what's happening and this whole transition, because it gets larger than Ukraine. It becomes more about the Iron Curtain, and you try to internalize and process, because you were on the other side of the Iron Curtain and now I'm in the West, and certain things that seemed extremely normal to me, they're not normal from the American perspective. Even just the marching in the Soviet Union, I mean, it's just bizarre how all these little kids, they were groomed from like 5 or 6 years old to march and worship Lenin, and the history was given to you in a very distorted way, but that's all you know. You think that the World War II started in 1990, I mean, in 1941, not in 1939. Like most people didn't even know how it started. So to connect the present life of Ukrainians with whatever the current events are, I had to go back. And that's, I didn't question myself. Like I knew that I'm not trying to argue like there is white and there is black and the truth is somewhere in the middle. No, I accepted for myself the point of view that I am very Ukrainian, pro-Ukrainian. I'm just navigating the world where not all the facts were clear and how one thing leads to another. In terms of, using myself in the film, it wasn't the idea from the very beginning. I just wanted to tell the story through the other people's voices, but it was always missing something. And I went through several rough cuts that I screened with different people. And the verdict was that I have to inject more of myself. And it was not easy. But at the end, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to sacrifice myself for the sake of a documentary film. So now I probably told the entire world a lot more about myself and my family that I was willing to share, but it is what it is.
There's something very wonderful about that, and we wouldn't be here if that wasn't the case. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
From Brian, so we left your film at a place and time, but Brian asks, how would you say Zelensky has done leading Ukraine since? So was he as pro-Russian as you feared, or is there, has it been more Ukrainian? Like where has that path led since your last?
Thank you. This is a very insightful question. Obviously, Brian is familiar with some Ukrainian background. I think my mother was right, because she's the one who actually thinks that he will take a very different direction. So I think she was right. There are a lot of things that are happening in Ukraine that it's never just, maybe there is one moment where everybody understands where the country is going, but there are usually a series of events, just like in the United States, that are leading towards this one moment when more people realize what is happening. So for instance, in Ukraine, and I'm not really like a political analyst who follows every development, but I do read the news and I see that there were a lot of people appointed to be at certain positions that were not the best people. The talks about the language or identity or even the responsibilities for International Monetary Fund, it all kind of becomes this big messy thing. So the direction on paper, maybe it's still sort of in some European direction, but within the country, I think there is a lot of stuff that's boiling and it just doesn't look good. So yeah, he didn't turn out to be this great charismatic leader who followed some really good course for the country. But he was a fun comedian, I guess. A lot of people liked him.
Let's see. I think I have a lot of great comments on here too, in terms of just reaffirmations of the power of the film and its ability to connect, and I think that's one of the aspects of our festival that we really like is even though it's virtual right now, is connecting you with with our community initially, like our audience, but now a national, international audience because of just our situation. So I would encourage you to go back and check, if you need to, Katya, too, let me know, but go back and check the feed because there's some great questions coming in and things that you might want to actually kind of elaborate more on.
Okay.
I would really appreciate that. But before we wrap up, I really wanted to ask you now that, this was your life's work and you, as you mentioned, and we just watched a documentary and talked with people about a life's work in our program and, how you put so much into it over time. So you're pitching it around, you're at our festival, you're kind of re-dissecting it now with user feedback on it. But that aside, where are you moving now? Like, what can you take from all of that for yourself, and how are you applying that forward in your career or your filmmaking career or your life in general?
Well, I think I'm still focusing on this film because I need to promote it and I still need to find other audiences that will connect with the film. And next year, 2021, will be the 30th anniversary since the Soviet Union collapsed and the Iron Curtain came down. And I expect, just the way it was 20 or 10 years ago, that these kind of milestones get a lot of attention and the subject is going to be around. And I think this is the best time for this film to be seen and to get attention, because it will give people a lot of context about what's happening. And it's really, I mean, it is about Ukraine, but it's not just about Ukraine. It's about a lot of countries in Europe that were behind the Iron Curtain. It is about America, when your country sort of like slips away from all the order and, you know, some corruption and things happen. I think Americans should watch this film, especially if there's going to be some conversations about the Soviet Union being gone. You know, this is how it usually works. There's an anniversary and everybody talks about it. So I think that right now I'm still focusing on pushing this film in the direction where it will get some, you know, attention. And it makes it very hard to focus on other work that's maybe more creative. But if someone once told me, I made this baby is not ready to be like abandoned. I still need to nurture the baby for a little bit. But in the future, I think this was a great experience that taught me what kind of work I like to do. And I think that there is a lot more to give to the world. So there will be other projects, but not right now.
Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing, and we can do our part to, you know, share it this weekend to you know, those who watch the film, who love it. Share it with your friends, share it with people, because it's important to share these things. So Katya, I hope you'll keep us posted on festivals, where you're going next, how we can keep an eye on the film, eventually how we can share it, you know, publicly with everybody, or all of that. So I really
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I really do appreciate, Katya, having you, sharing your film, and we're really excited to keep doing film here. And like I've mentioned before, we're going to send you a pass to get you back here next year physically, we hope, and
Thank you.
really share with you our area and our community. So we look forward to that.
Definitely will come. And congratulations on becoming an international festival now, when everybody's watching you from all over the world.
It's been really fun, and I'm glad that you're a part of it. And we wish you well in your endeavors moving forward. And again, reminder, people can check back in and work on the chat. And there is music tonight. We have one more Q&A if you're following the stream. We'll talk with another filmmaker, and then there's some live music tonight. So Katya, I hope you might be sleeping by then, but, you know, jump in.
Doesn't look like it.
All right,
Maybe we'll be listening to this live music here in New York.
Yeah, settle in. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Chris.
Have a great night, Katya.
Okay, bye.